Good morning, this is Bige Doruk. I'm going to talk to you today about the top 10 tips to help you get ready for the admission season. Tip number 1, it is really important to get an assessment or a diagnostic for your child in order to find out what their strengths, their weaknesses are, and what you need to do to prepare them for the upcoming testing season.
Tip 2, stay calm and cool during the testing period. It's very important that you remain calm even if this is a stressful period, because if you appear stressed, that may also affect your child and then of course affect the results on the exam. So it's very important to make sure that you stay upbeat, positive, as well as calm during this period.
Tip number 3, getting ready for the testing season. Please never discuss testing in front of your child. Children, especially younger ones, do not comprehend what a test is, and that only produces anxiety for them. It's okay to discuss this behind closed doors with your family and your friends, but in front of your children, please be very careful to make it less stressful for them, i.e., do not discuss what a test is and what they need to be doing all the time.
Tip 4, start early in your preparation for the exams. This is very important because if you come to us with only a couple weeks of time or maybe a month left, that might affect your child's test prep as well as their scores. For some children, they're certainly going to need, maybe just a few sessions. Others might need 8, 10 sessions to do well in that exam. In that case, you want to make sure you leave enough time between your initial assessment with us and the eventual assessment for your child to be able to develop their skills enough to do well in that exam.
Tip number 5, use the right materials with your children. This is really, really important because the right level and the right type of materials for the right test will only determine how well your child can do. Many families we see buy materials online from publishers that are not credited, or they start downloading a lot of material from membership-based sites and they spend a lot of money on printer ink, and at the end they have way too much material and they don't know what to do with. Buy a few at a time, work 15 minutes at a time, and then decide what's next. And please do not use more difficult materials that children will not be able to see. This will only create stress for them as they will not be able to complete the problems. And not only that, that's not the level that they'll be testing at. So please be careful in purchasing materials.
Tip 6, if taking multiple tests, make sure to leave enough time between them so your child isn't overwhelmed from too much tutoring at once. What many parents will do if they come to us and want to take all 3 exams, so ERB, Stanford-Binet, and LSAT, they'll make sure to plan ahead so there's a couple months' time for each test prep tutoring period. So many parents will start off with the ERB sometime early in the summer, switch to Stanford-Binet prep sometime late August through November, and then switch to LSAT prep from November through January. That's a great way to make sure the child's schedule is rounded out so they're still able to get enough tutoring in each subject, but also not overwhelmed. Please keep that in mind while scheduling.
Tip number 7, please understand the testing requirements at each school. Go to their website, do your online research, and if you still are confused, make sure you call the school to find out when the tests are, what type of tests are, and what your child needs to be doing. There is nothing worse than finding out that your child will be taking a different set than you've been preparing them for. So in order to avoid stress and confusion, it is really important to find out what type of tests and the testing requirements of the schools that you're applying are. They do vary.
Tip 8, make sure to adhere to the testing timelines. It's very important to know that if you're testing for the LSAT in Manhattan, your child is most likely going to take that exam sometime in January through February. If your child, of course, is taking the LSAT somewhere in the outer boroughs, like Brooklyn or Queens, please check in with that testing administrator. As for the Stanford-Binet, that exam is given between late September through early December, so plan accordingly around that time period. And then as for the ERB, to be able to have that score apply for the upcoming admissions year, that test date needs to be scheduled sometime before December of that next year.
Tip number 9, do your research on all the schools. Not by hearsay, not by blogs, but call the schools, go to their website, understand their philosophy, find parents of children who are attending those schools, and please beware that There's no one size fits all for all the schools. So what's good for your child is not necessarily good for another one. So create your own plan and create your own agenda.
Tip 10, get organized. Feel free to give us a call in office here so we can help you learn about the test timelines, admissions deadlines, as well as to give you information about admissions consultants within the city that can give you recommendations as to schools, either private or public, that would fit your child's needs.